Now, please pay attention. It's the latest thing, accurate to 100 feet in daylight or night.
Nice balance.
2 settings, narrow and wide beams.
Electronic sighting. Ingenious.
Obvious notion, actually. This is your star sensor. Registers up to 6 tags.
I hope it doesn't ruin the fit of my jacket.
Can't you take anything seriously?
Relax. It's only a game.
Laser tag, available and moving at the speed of light.
All right. So let's see where we're at here.
What are we doing today? First of all,
80's innovations.
I want to go last.
Okie dokie. All right.
I'm really super.
So are we doing just one and honorables, or we were going to do 3? What did you want to do? How were we going to do this one?
I had 3 picked out. I thought that's what we're doing, but if you guys are ready for that, then
no, I have 3. I'm ready. I have 4 actually, but
all right. Well, that's cool too. And actually, I think I have an honorable mention also. So
yeah.
All right. Well, very good.
Rose.
I'm paranoid, so that's why I'm going last.
Paranoid. Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
this is not going to be. If you're thinking like, actually, let me set it up.
Sword of Omens, give me sight beyond sight.
Greetings, Starfighter. You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Sur and the Kodan Armada. Get ready? Prepare for blast-off.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Remember, no matter where you go, there you are.
This is 80's Reboot Overdrive Podcast.
Just like Swayze when Jennifer Grey had nose. Oh, how I miss the 80s, but I'm too young to really know. Too young to know.
Oh my God. That is like so dated.
So this is 80's Reboot Overdrive. I am Dave. Online I've got 80's Music Girl Rose.
Hi y'all.
And 80's Auto Reverse Scott.
Hello again.
So we're together again, and we are doing this thing where we're doing another one of these epic crossover blog podcast events. We've done this. This is our 3rd one now, which is just super awesome. Every time we get one wrapped up, we actually have another one of the bloggers that participates with us, Weegie Midget, that is asking, okay, what's next? So it's like one of these things where, it's like, of course we've got to do something next. So this is the month of January. I got the harebrained idea of talking 80's innovations. And the way that when I came up with the concept, what I was thinking of was not necessarily just technology, even though technology is on the table to be talked about, because we had like the birth of the personal computer industry and a wealth of electronics, but there was other great things that were happening in the 80's around just the way things were evolving, around toys, movies, fashion, whatever, fill in the blank. So my take on this was just something that didn't exist before the 80's, but in that great decade that we love, it came to fruition. It came to exist. So that's where my mindset is at. I'm not, my picks aren't necessarily going to be just, big favorites. It's just something that I just think is comical to talk about. So some of my picks may go along those way, and then there's there's some thought processes around the technologies that were evolving in the 1980s. So that's kind of how it's framed out in my brain. But before we go into that, I just want to quickly do a shout out to those that are participating in our crossover event. which are usual suspects. Rediscoverthe80s.com. Those guys have their blog and podcast, and they're absolutely wonderful. Weemidget.wordpress.com. Like I said, she's the one that's pushing us along to say, hey, what's the next topic? Her stuff is epically awesome on her blog. If you haven't checked it out, definitely recommend you do that. KillerKitsch.wordpress.com. The more I read this guy's stuff, the more I interact with him. I'm just thinking if I lived in the UK, I'd be hanging out with him. Awesomely 80s great stuff on that blog. I would be checking it out all the time if I were you. Also, returntotheeighties.wordpress.com. Once again, they also do a podcast along with their blog. They're doing just awesomely great 80s stuff, with their song of the day, or the lyrics of the day, the quote of the 80s quote of the day, all kinds of great stuff on their blog, and they're always adding to it. And they also do their podcast, which is awesome too. So check them out. Also, our own blog, which is Southgate Media or SouthgateMediaGroup.com/80s Reboot blog, which is being taken care of by Rose, which is just absolutely fantastic. Once again, once we have the article posted, we link them all together with all the other participants, and it's just fantastic because everybody can see the other stuff, the other participants' blog entries. And then also we link the podcasts that are on the same topic. Quick shout out to our own Twitter account, which is at 80s Reboot. Just got over 6K. Happy to say.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I know, right?
Wow.
That's awesome.
So just did that,
Congrats.
I think, as of last night. So, which is really cool. So a lot of great followers there. A lot of people that interact with us, even though I got almost zero reaction to the Forbidden Zone thing. But hey.
There's a couple of likes and retweets that I saw for that one.
Yeah,
That's about it.
Yeah, so still good stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna have to keep bringing that one up. That
was filler. That was a filler episode right there.
After I had edited and re-listened to that episode, I actually got in my brain that I've got to find that movie Super Fuzz that I talked about as one of my guilty pleasures,
yeah.
And then we'll rotate that. I don't have it right now, but I've got to find it.
I still haven't had a chance to send off the Kentucky Fried Movie to Rose yet.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's okay.
I've been busy.
I know, dear. So. It's all right. What I was going to say was, if everything comes to fruition as we're hoping with this Ferris Fest this summer, if we get a chance to maybe stop by the Blue Box, maybe we could do a quick recap of Forbidden Zone. That way we have a live audience, just to see their reaction. And, just entertain the thought of, if anybody's ever seen this movie, what did you think of it?
I can see their eyes glazing over now.
Hey, it's a coffee shop. Wake up.
All right, so sticking on topic, 80s innovations. I'm more than happy to go first, unless, Scott, you've got one that you're just biting at the bit to talk about.
Well, there is one, and most of mine are definitely technology because that's what I was interested in and involved in. So,
are you starting tech? Are you going to start with the tech one?
Yeah, because it's shaped so much of what I do on a personal level and a professional level.
All right, then let's hear it.
So it was a huge step in the photography world, and that would be autofocus.
So that wasn't before the 80s then.
Nope.
They didn't have. Okay.
Nope. It was they had focus like with like point and shoot cameras that were automatically focused, but it was is focused in on everything, where autofocus, the mechanism of the lens changing its depth so that it could focus on certain things, that's what came into play. And that was when was that? Early 80s. But it was done by Pentax, was one of the first ones that actually came out with it. So, anyway, 1981. There it is. And it's it was actually it was developed in the 70s, but it really didn't hit the consumer market until the 80s.
So back in the early 80s, were you doing things with cameras at that time, or was that
I was in high school when I started shooting, and I was in high school from 82 to 86. So it was right after autofocus came into play. However, the camera I used in high school did not have autofocus. I didn't have one of those until probably 2000, I think. Maybe no. I'm sorry, 1990. It was right after a couple years after high school.
So, being a professional photographer, do you rely on the technology to do what you want it to do, or is it you're into the art of it that you want to control how it's going to show up?
There's a lot of information packed into that question, or into the answer, actually. I don't know how much time do you have, because there's so many different factors. It's not, I wish it were that, I wish I could break it down into those simple forms, that simple of a statement. I rely on my autofocus probably about 99% of the time, as do most photographers today, because it's come so far that when you look through the lens of a camera, there are in some camera formats, certain cameras, whether it's Nikon or Canon or Sony, they have in their lenses sometimes up to 30, I want to say 37, I could be wrong, I mean there could be more, but 37 points that the lens could focus in on, and when it focuses in on that, it shows you where it's focused in on when you're looking through the viewfinder. It's much different than a lot of the point and shoots, or the ones that you hold up and you look at the screen. I mean, mine you can look at the screen too, but most photographers that are using a DSLR, SLR, single lens reflex. So most that are doing that are usually using the actual viewfinder with their eye and looking into it and seeing the focal points of where it's focusing in on, and then you can change the aperture or speed of the shutter to change different things within the camera too. There's so much involved with that, but I mean that's how much of a impact it's had on technology today, as far as the cameras go. The autofocus is huge. It's very rare that you find somebody actually using the lens to focus by hand manually. Occasionally you have to in certain situations, and I do occasionally, but 99% of the time it's autofocus, and it's accurate. That's the thing. It's very, very accurate. It's amazing. I don't know how it works. I don't have the knowledge to figure out the technology behind it. I just know it's awesome. So it's changed the photography world, absolutely.
All right. Well.
So I have a question, actually, just because I can. You said Pentax is the one that came up with this particular innovation. Go ahead. You were gonna say something?
No, it's Pentax was the one that brought it out in the 80s. Leica, Leica, was the one that actually invented it.
Okay.
But, that's when the consumer market didn't really take it until Pentax took off with it.
Oh, okay. Now, is this something that actually has to be incorporated in the camera? Is this like a mechanism inside the camera, or How does it actually work? Where
So
is it at?
the lens and the camera body have to both be autofocus compatible, because for it to work, because you can have a autofocus body and put a manual focus lens on it, where you would have to do all the work as far as focusing. Now that's old school. Some people still love it. When you're doing like sports photography, it's amazing what they used to be able to do by doing that. Like how well people could capture an image even with manual focus in the middle of a sports event where it's very fast paced or something. There's some incredible stuff done by people manually focusing. But to really utilize it or to use it at all, it has to be, the camera body has to be compatible to send the information to the lens, and the lens has to communicate. That's why when you take the lens off of the body of the camera, you'll see metal, like little connectors, not connectors, but like feet, little metal feet where they all connect, and that's where it communicates to tell the lens how far open do you want the lens to go, which is your aperture. How fast you want the lens to open and close. The actual diaphragm that's within the lens. So.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize I could explain all that.
Awesome.
So, anyway, that's why I wanted to mention that one, because I didn't realize it didn't come out or was really heavy in the 80s. So I had to mention it because it's had such a impact on my life personally.
Very cool.
So,
So I'm going completely off the technology bandwagon on my first pick.
Cool.
But it's something that I've got to just. It feels like it may have been instrumental in just changing the way that we viewed food in the 1980s. It's just one of those things where it was like, why did this not exist before the 1980s? And I don't know, the way people, I don't know how people are even existing now, because it doesn't even happen anymore now, and it didn't happen before the 80s, but someone had the brainchild and the idea and the foresight to think, I've got to take my hot side of my hamburger and keep it on one side, and I got to keep the cool stuff cool. So I'm talking the McDLT.
I loved the McDLT.
Here's what I envision happened. Somebody somewhere was, probably sending letters or calling up the McDonald's Corporation and said, you know what? You guys are okay, you're fine, but, when I'm getting my food from you guys, my lettuce is a little wilty and it's warm. I can't deal with that. You guys got to do something. And so there had to be some sort of, these things bubbled up to some executive, and he goes, this is a real problem that needs to be fixed. I'm going to get my, my innovation team, my research and development team to come up with something. And then somewhere someone said, you know what? Let's make the McDLT. And even better, we'll get Jason Alexander to do a commercial to promote it. You guys ever see this cheesy commercial? It's great. Great 80s-ness right there. But for me, an 80s innovation that it actually doesn't exist anymore. And what I read up on it, just so I could be a little more knowledgeable about it, was because of the styrofoam container that they were using wasn't good for the environment. So that's the reason why it got discontinued. So that was a strike against it, was because it was bad for the environment due to the container. But somebody somewhere, had to have thought the process, we need to separate these things, and they did it. So
I thought it was brilliant too, because I liked the crispness of the lettuce against the warmth of the burger. Yes.
But alas, Much like the 80s, it's past.
Yes, it is.
So, I didn't know if we wanted to, if you guys could expand on that anymore, but I just thought it'd be a fun one to start with.
I think it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a great idea when it came out. I went right out right away and tried it, and kept going back for more actually.
But I know the cheese was on the cold side.
That's a drawback.
Right, because you'd want it a little melty, right? So
yes.
Yeah. So I don't know about the choice on that, but the rest of the concept, yeah, I'm with you. It's nice to have that kind of a fresh side of your the cold side being fresher, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Even though you do have to do a little bit of preparation yourself, and that might have been another drawback. Who knows?
I think if people's food it's a personal thing, and for someone to get that bent out of shape because their lettuce is wilty and their tomatoes are soggy, and it's just going that extra mile so you could please everybody. It's just the fast food industry has evolved so much over the last 40 years. It's just nuts. It's just too much. There's just too many things, for too many people. That's why I like In-N-Out burgers. You got like a very brief menu, and you're done.
Keep it simple.
Burger, shakes, fries. Yeah, you're done.
It's tough for me to imagine that the McDonald's Corporation just would have thought to do that on their own. To me it feels like it would have been predicated on comments coming in from the customers.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then I don't know if you guys know or not, and I'm sure you've seen the commercials for the movie The Founder.
Yeah,
with,
I saw
Michael
that.
Keaton
Yeah.
as Ray Kroc. He doesn't look like he'd be the type of person to go, gee, what shall I invent next? Oh, I know. Yeah. So, but yeah, he looks kind of scary in that movie.
Yeah, I'll definitely see that one though. It looks good.
Yeah, it does. It does look good.
I haven't seen anything about this yet.
Oh yeah, you should go on YouTube and get a trailer lookage.
Yeah, it's just
So Michael Keaton is playing Ray Kroc.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So finally, the movie industry decided that's a story that they needed to put out there.
Definitely. You watch Walmart to be next.
Oh yeah, I could see that too. All right, so Rose, you're next up.
Well, I'm a bit of a gadget girl. I like my electronic toys. I like my movies and my music and things like that. But one of the things that the 80s brought, I always thought that the 80s were a combination of the 50s, the 60s, and the 40s. I don't know why. I just, with the big shoulder pads, everybody had, the men and women, the big suits and shoulder pads, and made them all look like linebackers. That's an innovation in itself. I mean, that stems from the 40s. If anybody knows any movie history, I think Catherine, what's her face? Sorry.
Hepburn?
She was thank you, Catherine Hepburn. She was notorious for her pantsuits and the big, powerful shoulders. And then later on, of course, they recreated that with Dynasty. But I want to talk about hair today because I think the 80s had such an amazing. The 80s hair was just phenomenal. The very first time I saw a spike, and if anyone knows what a spike is, it's a mohawk that's been separated by either mustache wax or gel, and it literally looks like a person has like spikes growing out of his head. First time I ever saw
like the Statue of Liberty style.
It's a horizontal, right down the middle.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. And the first time I saw one, I was in Germany, a young kid. I was standing on a train platform, and I am like this type of person. If I see something awesome, I will tell the person. I don't care if they are 500 yards away or passing in between trains or whatever. And I thought that was just so amazing that someone had the tenacity to get up early that morning, fix their hair. God knows how long it took them to do that. But hair was like a really big deal in the 80s. And it didn't necessarily matter if you were a man or a woman, because the rock dudes, they had the mullets, and, the girls had the big hair. The Aquanet must have made like billions of dollars in the 80s. I am not kidding. There were so many different variations of Aquanet. And Aquanet wasn't invented in the 80s, but it was invented in the 60s because my mom used to use it. And that stuff was actually toxic. They had to end up taking some chemicals out because people were getting lung cancer from it. But
and that bounces back to the movie or play Hairspray, right? Like that's in the 60s was...
Yeah, because they had in the 60s, they had the beehives, and then they had the back comb where you did in the flippy hair, the Marlo Thomas Batgirl hair. I always, I always wanted, I was like, oh, I want my hair to look like that. Well, there has to be a certain texture. They don't tell you that when you go to the beauty salon. They're like, you don't have that kind of hair. But, so it was either like massively huge, lots of hairspray. If you had curly hair was in, and it was the more curls, the better. The guys went the opposite direction with slick back kind of look and the kind of coiffed. I think men actually started to think more about their hair as an asset to themselves than they did in previous years. That's why, in the 50s, the guys, the greasers had the comb and then the little ducktails and stuff. But then later on, it was like, everybody's like, oh, peace, man, they like my blonde hair and I'm a hippie and all that. But in the 80s, it was like everything was short. Like I said, unless you were a rocker dude, you had the mullet, and then they had the long hair. But yuppies had like the short side part, some of them, and it's all this gel. I think hair products probably just skyrocketed during that time. And then you came along and you had things accoutrements that you needed to use in order to keep your hair looking amazing. Because you couldn't go outside without your hair looking amazing, because you never know who you're going to run into. And then if you had your best friend down the street who just got a new blow dryer or something, so she's all like, oh, look at my hair. So you had to one up on that person. But the one thing that I found was kind of unnecessary was the hair crimper. I really feel like it was invented in the 70s, actually, for Barbra Streisand. She was doing a movie, and it was a guy that invented it and used it on her hair. And I thought, okay, well, that looks great if you have, like, thick hair or curly hair or something like that. What if you've got, like, thin hair and it made you look like you were a scarecrow? It was really kind of weird. And there was actually instances where beauty salons were sued because the temperature was up so high. Some people actually got their hair fried off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they would crimp it to the point to where it wasn't taking, and they would put it up higher on the temperature and make it hotter, and then they'd pull it, try to take it off, and their hair had literally like fried.
I hated when that happened.
Yeah, I know. Don't you just like now you got to get a baseball cap, and or whatever.
And the smell of burning hair.
Oh
man.
The smell of burnt hair. It's terrible. But what is it my grandmother used to say about beauty? What price beauty? Yeah, it's a big price, actually. So I don't know if anybody has any hair stories out there as you're listening to this podcast, but I would love to see pictures of people from the 80s. I always love seeing those Olin Mills pictures.
Oh, yeah.
With the whole family. And there's always like some kid that's got like an afro that didn't, it was supposed to be something else, but it ended up being like this afro. And just because perms was a big thing too. Perms had come back. That was another 40s thing. Everybody got well, the women did, but guys are getting them too.
Oh yeah.
And it was.
This is
it's
a great
like,
pick, Rose. This is a great pick. I love this. It's good stuff.
Well, I figured I'd go with something I knew about, because it's just one of those things that took a really super long time, for it to come, for people to actually say, okay, well, I care about my appearance. I want to look great. This is if I'm going out, we're going to the club. Let me take the next 2 hours and do my hair. Like,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, go for it. I'll meet you there.
I
don't have time to wait for you to do your hair.
This point that you're making with all the different hairstyles that were kind of coming from all these different eras is so accurate. Like, you can see so many things that were from the past. I mean, just look at the Rockabillys.
Yeah.
How they had their hair. That was definitely 50s, right? Late 50s.
Yeah.
And then the big hair. I don't know where the big hair came from, like what era that might have come from, because some of the hair that was out there, like some of the ladies that had the hair that was like so tall and big and frizzy, and I've got some great pictures of Chrissy had some big hair. My cousin, she has some of the best, biggest permed hair that you could see. I mean, it was incredible. If I get her permission, I'm going to share that picture with you guys.
That would be awesome. And I would put it in the blog. I would definitely, because I've been
okay.
to put in the blog. But yeah, I'll
run it past her.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Her and
it's
my
definitely
wife.
Something that's gone. It's gone by the wayside. You don't see it anymore. You really just don't see that anymore.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to go back to when you first started telling the story of this. I want to know what this sounds like. So you're on a busy train track or train station. You're in Germany.
Yeah.
You see, I guess this guy is a rocker, 80s, spiked hair.
He was a punk. He was a punk.
But is that a very casual walk up and go, dude, love your hair? Or is that yelling, dude, love your hair?
The thumbs up.
Is that what? It's a second one
you
then.
say, okay, so it was like a hey, and then they all turn around. And I'm, of course, in my army uniform because I'm going to work.
Right.
And I'm pointing to his head, because I don't speak German, obviously, or I do, but I don't know what, hey, dude, your hair looks awesome is in German. And thumbs up. And I think I said awesome. And he's like, he threw his fist up, like, right on.
Rock on.
And they went, and then they went on and started talking, and the train came and I got on it.
Probably made his night.
I was thrilled. Yeah, I made my, obviously, here it is, 2017, I'm still telling the story.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're going around to our next picks. Scott, you're up.
Okay, so like I said before, I'm mostly technology based here, and I remember one thing that I got for Christmas. It was the early '80s, I believe, and it was the Casio calculator watch. So not only was I sporting a members only jacket, and carrying around a cool little boom box with a ejectable
Walkman
or whatever, I also had a calculator watch.
Dude, future. You're futuristic.
Yeah, it was just something cool to have. It was not. I know they're still out there though. I've seen them out there still.
Oh yeah.
So you can still get them, even though the smartwatches have completely taken over the market. It seems like there's still those calculator watches where you got to push the little buttons. And it's just a classic thing from the '80s that I remember. So.
And you probably typed in 8008 and then looked at it upside down and giggled.
Yeah, because it's
yeah. So.
Oh, you guys are such boys.
We are. We are.
Dave said boob.
I didn't say it. I said ample, but anyway.
Fullness.
Ampleness.
That's a lot of numbers.
It is. That's a little harder to put on the calculator watch.
I think so.
So did that come in handy, like when you were in school and you'd be able to use it during a math test or anything like that, or did the teacher say, okay, well you've got to put your watch away?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember I don't remember a lot of the specifics of how I enjoyed it or how I used it. I just remember getting one, and one of my cousins got one too, and we just thought that was so cool. I don't know. It's really kind of lame, but it's, it wasn't like the girls were coming over to you and go, wow, nice calculator watch.
Yeah.
For my next pick is actually kind of humorous because it's of the same topic matter. But rather than going to calculator watch, I was going to be talking about my G-Shock watch. Casio had a G-Shock watch, and I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but it was like it would have a heavy duty protection around it and all that, and it's supposed to be able to have the depth of like 200 meters of water. And
I remember those. Weren't they in like different colors too?
I just remembered it might be in black.
Okay.
But it was like a heavy duty looking thing. So I hate to get away from your calculator watch unless you have more to share on that, Scott. Did we lose Scott?
Scott?
Bueller?
Sorry, my dog was barking. I put the mute on and forgot to take it off. So I'm not having microphone issues.
Okay.
That was intentional.
Okay.
Okay.
But did you have more on the calculator watch, or can I expand with the G-Shock?
No, I did not really have much on the calculator watch.
Okay.
I just remember it was something that it's just something that always sparks a memory for me. Not specific memories of how I used it or what I did with it or whatever, but it was just something that I remember was something very popular in the 80s.
It was a nice, handy combination of technology, because not only did you get your time, but you also didn't have to carry around a calculator.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, so it's the convenience factor.
Definitely.
And then on my G-Shock watch, let me explain the kind of person I am. I'm not a very good swimmer. In fact, as a kid, I was not comfortable in the water. So I wasn't athletic by any means. In fact, probably very sedentary lifestyle, being playing the Atari, playing with my Apple IIe. It's not like I had a lot of those extra, activities where I was like, wrecking my, my watch. But somewhere in my world, I got in my brain that when I saw this G-Shock, I needed to have it, and of course I, begged Mom to get it, and I eventually got one. But this thing is, it looks like it's bulletproof, but it was like one of these things where it can withstand all these kind of rugged shocks and all that, and it is water resistant up to, I think it was like 200 meters or whatever. This is nothing I would have done anyway. It's not like I was going to, you could have given me the Mickey Mouse watch and it would have been perfectly fine, but for some reason I needed to have this big durable thing, as if like all of a sudden I was going to get that, and then now it's like, okay, now I can be like some sort of super spy now.
Yeah.
But of course that never happened, but I had this big bulky watch because I don't know, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. When you were talking about the how you weren't athletic and you didn't swim, and you had paused there for a second, and I was like, you were voted most likely to drown. But I didn't say it because I couldn't actually say that without laughing. So I wanted you to go on with what you had to say. Finish your thought pattern. I thought, wow, me too. Yeah. But, yeah. Do you still have it?
I do not.
Wow.
But yeah, actually, I wish I did. It was very cool.
How old were you when you got it?
I know that had to be around probably 13, 14, I would guess.
Okay.
I mean, I don't remember exactly, but when I was doing, some look-up of things, that came about in the 80s, and once I saw that as one of them, I was like, of course, because I had that thing, and I loved it, so. All right, so, Rose, what was your next pick?
God, is it my turn already?
It's your turn.
Jeez. I'm sitting here, I could have been reading.
It's real easy if you have another watch to talk about.
I know, but I don't.
Okay.
I'm actually going to talk about something serious right now. I know hair is serious to some people, but I wanted to be able to slip something in there that actually made it look like it was making an effort. Everybody knows pretty much one of my favorite movies is Hiding Out.
Yes. So
there is a scene in the movie where one of the stockbrokers is they all came home from the bar and went to their separate abodes, and loft apartments were a big deal in the 80s. That's an innovation in itself. I don't know why one person felt like they needed a street block worth of apartment to feel like they were comfortable. I mean, I totally didn't get that. I mean, they look cool, but that's not my point. Anyway, so he's in his loft apartment and he's getting ready for bed, and he presses this button on this apparatus, and this drawer slides out. And I'm like, ooh, what's that? And he has this round disc, and he puts it in the drawer, and I'm like, say what? And pushes the drawer back in, and music starts playing, and I'm like, what is that? This is the first time I'd ever seen a CD player. I didn't even know that they existed. I mean, as far as record stores and everything, I knew there were vinyl, I knew there were cassettes, and that was pretty much it. So here is this new innovation that is being showcased in this movie, and it's a round disc. It's smaller than an album. It's made out of metal, and it plays music. And I'm like, wow. So the next time I was out, after I'd seen the movie, I went out, I don't know what store I went to, probably Radio Shack or some place like that, and I looked up how much, I said, is there such a thing? And I explained it to the guy, and he goes, you mean a CD player? And it was one of those, like, snarky looks that you give somebody when they're asking you, what is a spoon? Is that, like, something that you eat with? Or, it's like everybody knows what it is except you do. And so he walks over, and he goes, yeah, here's our line of CD players. And I'm like, where do you get the music to put in there? You have to buy that separate. Do you need any more help with this? You want to explain it how it works? And I'm like, no, I just want to look at it, all these not dials and knobs and buttons, and I'm looking at the prices going, whoa, that's like more than I make in like 6 months. Holy crap. Like, what is it? Nobody will ever buy these things.
Well, you know why they sold, right? Like, why they became such a hit? It's because they were virtually indestructible.
Is that what it was?
That was one of the big things. Like, you can't scratch these. You could run these over with cars, and nothing's going to happen to CDs.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, liars. Liars.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then, of course, you find out later on that, the whatever it is that, how the laser, how they put all the music and everything on there, it's only good for like 10 years. So if you have a CD from 20 years ago, good luck.
Yeah.
But they actually were a lot more trouble. They've gotten better. But yeah, I just couldn't believe it. Here I am, like You know, of course, not even thinking in the forefront that they're going to actually make one of these for movies eventually. You know, and I'm just looking at these $600 and $700 CD players, you know, and of course the CDs themselves are $20, and I'm going, yeah, I'll keep my cassette player, thank you very much. I don't need all this fancy stuff to listen to music. And then, of course, now that's all people have. I mean, I don't even think that, you know, it's not. Of course, it's MP3s and all that stuff. I mean, they're getting even phased out, but you don't really think about that when you see one for the first time. It's like, you know, looking at a DeLorean, like, man, is this the car of the future? But it's not. It just looks like the car of the future.
I remember the first CD that I bought.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was Heart.
Heart?
The one with These Dreams on it. I think it was called These Dreams.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think it's I think it's just the technology that was just sexy about it, you know, because it's like a laser is reading your music.
Laser, yes.
Laser. And you combine lasers and 80's, and you put a robot in there. You're like, I'm all in.
Yeah.
I can't afford it, but that's what I need. It's like I need the Terminator reading my music.
That's awesome. I did I went to this website, you know, just to look up some stuff and get some history on compact disc, and apparently Billy Joel's 52nd Street was the very first album that was made into CD.
Yeah, I read that too. I was looking up that stuff. I saw that too. It's interesting.
That's very cool. So I'm glad that eventually, you know, I got with the program and I didn't feel like, you know, Granny from Beverly Hillbillies. I tell you, yeah, I just knew it wasn't going to go anywhere because it was too expensive and it was really bulky, you know. But I'm sure people said that about VHS. Well, they definitely said it about Betamax. Obviously, it's not here anymore. But, you know, VHS was like, oh, this is awesome. But, yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
It's weird. Thank you.
So this is a good segue into my next pick.
Sweet.
We were talking about lasers. Laser tag.
Oh my God! You took my pick.
No.
You totally did. That is sweet. That is so sweet. Please go ahead.
Okay, so my grandparents, they lived, you know where Addison is, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had this, the whole family owned this property. It was like 20 acres at one point. They've sold off a bunch of it, but we used to play laser tag when all those toys came out with the strap-on chest, you know, over your chest. You have the sensor that you would shoot and the guns, and then they came out with the laser rifles, and every time they came out with a new one, we were like on it, and we were playing full on. And we had multiple sets of them because we just went nuts with them. You know, our friends would buy them, and they would all come over, and we have like this full-on warfare of laser tag between teams, and we had so much fun. My grandparents' family had a greenhouse that they're in the orchid business, okay? And for years, they've been in business since the 50s, and they're one of the largest orchid distributors they were at the time in the United States. They can hardly compete with Home Depot now, though. Anyway, so we used to be able to go in the greenhouse, and we would have, you know, like capture the flag type thing going on that we just kind of brought it on ourselves. Or if it was nice out, we'd go outside and play outside at night, of course. And my little brother was one of the best laser tag players I've ever come across. Him and my cousin Chris. Oh, Dave, you know Chris.
Yeah.
I think. That's Cheryl's husband.
Yeah.
Chris, he and my brother were really close when we were younger because they were closer in age. Those two together playing laser tag were relentless, man. They were good. Like I remember there was this one part of our property.
And hold on 1 second. Just Rose, so you got to know this. Fast forward to Chris's profession today.
He's a cop.
All right, I just got to throw that out there. I thought that was awesome when you were telling that story. I was like, no wonder. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, he's always like guns. I guess I could tell you a great story of Chris and my brother getting trapped up in the north woods of Wisconsin with their guns.
All right. Oh, that's a story.
But anyway,
for another
that's
time,
a totally different story. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm on one team. My brother and Chris are on the other team, and I'm coming around this corner of this little. There's a shed in the back, and there's a good sized tree up above the shed, and then there was another smaller tree to one side of the shed, and I came around the corner of the shed, and they had hooked up a rope from the top of the big tree down to the small tree, with a pulley on it. And suddenly, out of nowhere, my brother comes flying out of the tree on the pulley down the rope, shooting his laser tag, and he gets me. I'm like, you got me. They were out of control, man. And this, we were only, I don't remember when this actually came out, but we're probably 14, 15, and my brother's like 10. So him and Chris are just smoking us. They were really good players. It was fun though. We had a lot of fun with laser tag. I'm sorry I took your pick, Dave.
No. I think it's awesome. In fact, your story is better than mine because I was going to reminisce about where even when you weren't actively playing with someone else, I was one of those guys that I would be like, taking the sensor that that you would shoot and set it up across the house somewhere and try to do a trick shot with a mirror.
Oh, nice.
So, that's the kind of stuff I was working on to hone my skills. I wasn't worried about just the straight shot. I wanted to see, if there's a way that with the mirror, which was possible, to have that little light beam reflect off and go hit the sensor.
Yeah, I really wish we had the the GoPros with helmets and stuff back then.
Yeah.
Because we had so much. We played laser tag so much at my grandparents' in the greenhouse, outside the greenhouse, where it was hours and hours and hours of fun at night, especially during the summer because we didn't have school or anything like that, and it was just so much fun. I have such great memories of laser tag. And now look at the industry. I mean, really, it's gone into paintball, of course, now, but it's still, you can go to some places. There's one in, I want to say over in Wooddale, or not Wooddale. It might be Addison. There's a really big facility over in Addison still that does some pretty big places. I know you don't know where Addison is, Rose, but tell him, Dave. Do you know about this place, Dave?
I don't.
Yeah, it's really cool. You should go check it out.
Okay.
My brother, this was just 3 years ago. My brother brought all his brood. He's got 12 now, kids. But we brought 6 or 7 of them and had a full-on laser tag blowout with other nephews and nieces and cousins and all that stuff. It was a blast, man.
Very cool.
Literally a blast. Ha 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 ha.
All right. Well, I mean, you taking my third pick with laser tag. I mean, I'm happy with that. So I think that's really cool. My honorable mention, just so that I have something new to throw out there, was something we didn't own, but it was a concept that came up in the mid 80s. Was the idea of being able to clap your devices on. So the clapper, the clapper did not exist before the 80s. It's because somebody said, you know what, it's just way too hard to go way over there and turn that light on. I want to just be able to clap twice. Voila. It's like magic. So
clap
that was,
on, clap off the clapper.
Yeah, so that's my honorable mention. So, Rose, what's your last pick?
I'm just envisioning someone sitting, in a theater, and someone decided to, hook up clappers to all the lights, and it's like live theater, and every time people applaud, the lights just start flickering off and on.
That'd be kind of cool.
That's funny.
You notice they only had, senior citizens that
advertised
never
for it,
used them.
right?
Yeah. It was great. I wish I would have had one.
It was probably the same person that was in the Wendy's commercial, Where's the Beef, and also probably LifeLock. Or Life.
Oh,
not
yeah.
LifeLock,
Yeah,
Life.
phone and I can't get up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that one.
I know. Such fun time. My last pick, it was a toss up. I may have an honorable mention if we do honorable mentions, but I have to mention this because I know other people are going to use it. My children, when raising my children in the 80s, and I was a single mom towards the latter part of the 80s, being able to keep them all occupied and harm-free, because we lived in some neighborhoods that weren't that great. So I personally think sometimes I invented the word couch potato, because when I finally did get them to go outside, it was like, I want to go outside. It's sun out there. My eyes hurt. Just like, okay, whatever. So tax time was always fun, because not only did you realize how much money you actually paid to the federal government that they kept that you could have used throughout the previous year, but you got to buy things that you wouldn't normally purchase. Everybody loves tax time, right?
Sure.
And one year, through the constant not nagging, barraging?
Barrage.
Barrage, thank you, for my children. Please, 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 please. I'll never ask you for another thing ever. Ha.
Yeah, I've used that speech before.
Yeah, it doesn't work. So, I succumbed, and I went out and I purchased a Nintendo.
Nice.
I had no idea what I was buying. It apparently came with a gun that
Duck
worried
Hunt.
me. And
Duck Hunt, that was awesome.
Little, and I'm looking at, and I was like, what is it supposed to do? Well, the first hour that we got it was trying to hook it up. I mean, this is how pretty much I learned all my tech skills, from hooking up VCRs, Nintendos, you name it. I could put anything on a television anywhere. So, but we didn't get the little robot guy. I can't remember who he was, but I'm looking at this picture and I go, I don't remember what I was getting them. And then, of course, you use the games that it came with. It came with Mario and Duck Hunt.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So I was actually really good at Duck Hunt. I don't know anybody who wasn't, but that little guy hopping around in the sewers, and yeah, he drove me crazy. I was like, I'll leave this to the kids, because this will keep them quiet for God knows how long, at least till I make dinner. But it was actually really neat to see it evolve over the years. But the very first one, I can honestly say that, I was instrumental in making sure my kids had hours and hours of, you didn't do that right. You're going to die if you don't use your last life. Why is he... Mom, Michael keeps pushing my arm and I'm falling into the sewer. I'm just like, really, people? You're supposed to be okay. So it's... My daughter was younger, so she didn't really care. And she's, to this day, she does not play video games. She does not understand why that's such a big deal. But thank God for 2 controllers. That's all I'm saying. And yeah, it was just the individual games themselves got a little pricey after a while, so I had to make sure I bought an extra one, because there weren't that many to start with. But then when it evolved into whatever it evolved into later on, actually, I think, is it PlayStation a spawn of Nintendo?
No, that's Sony.
Yeah.
Sony, okay.
Yeah.
So what was
Nintendo.
Sony before it was PlayStation? There was something else, wasn't it? Was that the Sega?
I think Sega was Sega.
Okay.
They were owned by. I think I could be wrong.
Okay.
I'm not sure if anything was. I don't know if
I know it
Sony
was
had
Nintendo.
a video game console before PlayStation.
Really?
Do you, Dave? Do you remember?
No, I don't. I know Atari was my jam, so.
Yeah, Atari was mine too. And then ColecoVision
Yeah.
was cool. But
Yeah.
so,
But then I always liked, when you had the games and everybody knew that, or if they started to get pixelated, that, you took it out and you blew inside the game. Back in there. It's like, yeah, I got this. The first time I saw my
blow
son do
into
that,
it like a harmonica.
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm blowing the dust out. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
Is
that
it a break?
was
No.
universal for all those consoles, is how to
Yeah.
fix the game.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
Or if you put extra strength when you're pushing it in to the console,
you had to
that
kind
made
of
a
do this
difference
jerk
too.
move. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a whiplash kind of thing, and it's like, oh, there it is.
I think that's what's
Yeah.
missing from today is like you don't have that gratifying ka-chunk when you put in.
Yeah.
Clunk,
You
yeah.
don't. Yeah. Yeah.
There was something therapeutic about that. Like,
Yeah.
chunk. All right, I'm good now. I'm locked in.
We are in.
Yeah.
We're going in.
Definitely.
In and out. Nobody gets hurt.
There you
No,
go.
this is a great pick. I mean, it was definitely a turning point in the video game world.
It was.
Compared to Atari and ColecoVision. It took over in a mad fire of excitement, and it just really took off. It's amazing. One of my favorite games was Tecmo Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It was the football game, and they had the 1985 Bears on there, and
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah. I like the commercials that they run now with Bo.
Yeah, the throwbacks. Those are cool.
Yeah.
Those are cool.
Like, thanks for not running me over. You mean
Yeah.
again?
And I believe that's Bo Jackson.
It is. It is totally
Okay.
Bo Jackson.
I couldn't tell because he's quite a bit older, so
Yeah.
But Bo Jackson, if you were playing Tecmo Bowl, Bo Jackson, you can outrun any player on Tecmo Bowl, and there's video of people showing it, like on YouTube, of where they can go back and forth across the field several times without ever being touched by another player with being Bo Jackson, So it was kind of a glitch in the system. I think that he was a little too fast for everybody. So anyway, that's a great pick, Rose.
Thank you. I just, I had a lot of options, so I thought, I might stick with what I know. I just figured that would work. So, hail to Nintendo. Thank you for all your hours of peace and quiet.
Yeah.
In my home.
And just to let you know that on the cartridge thing, I actually have a flask that looks like Duck Hunt, but it says Drug Hunt.
No way. Really? You have a flask?
Yeah, it's a
Like
plastic flask that looks like the game cartridge.
That's cool.
And it says Drunk Hunt rather than Duck Hunt. So I've used it once. It's not like I'm the kind of guy that's always walking around with the a flask handy, even though it sounds like I am with scotch and all that.
Right.
But in this case, it was one of those things. I was like at C2E2, and these guys had this booth, and they had a whole bunch of them, different ones, but they all are in the shape of a game cartridge. And I was
so
like,
cool.
I have to get this. I cannot say no to this.
I think I would want Atari Missile Command. That'd be cool to carry around in my pocket.
Yeah.
Or something. If you get that, that's cool.
Right.
That's a great idea. I have a flask that some neighbors of mine gave me right before we moved. It holds a gallon.
That's not exactly a flask. That's like a keg.
No, dude. I gotta show. I'll send you a picture of it. It's curved like it's like it looks exactly like a flask with the little top that screws over, that flips over, but it's just gigantic. And I brought it to a couple of parties just for fun, and people just get a big kick out of it. It's too funny. Yeah.
All right. Well,
But yours is way better though. The Drunk Hunt, a cartridge. That is so funny.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I'll have to take a picture now and send it to you guys.
So before we wrap it up, I know we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes. I just want to throw two quick honorable mentions. I'm not going to talk about them. I'm just going to throw this out there.
Throw them.
The nicotine patch and Prozac.
Nicotine patch and Prozac?
Yeah, Prozac. The drug
Okay.
was actually developed in the 70s, but
Okay.
it wasn't approved by the FDA until 1987.
Wow.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So just talk amongst yourselves.
And did you know that the digital cell phone was not around before 1988?
88?
Yeah.
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 Wow. I thought it was before that.
Yeah, so I thought that was an interesting little find when I saw it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Considering how far they've evolved, and how I'm now being reminded via text that I've got an errand to run shortly. So
Okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
all right.
Okay.
All right, so that's our 80s innovations. Definitely a fun topic, but it's part of our crossover event that I alluded to at the beginning of this whole thing. The participants that are doing this with us, again, rediscoverthe80s.com, weemidget.wordpress.com, Killer Kitsch, wordpress.com, Return to the 80s, wordpress.com, and Southgate Media Group.com/80s Reboot blog. All of those will have an 80s innovation topic. We'll have them all linked together as we did with our previous crossovers. So all wonderful, cool stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody's going to write about and listen to the other podcasts on the same topic that we were just covering. So let us cover our social media credentials. Scott's.
I am at 80s Auto Reverse on Twitter or at Scott's Eye on Twitter. And then on Facebook, you can find us at 80s Mixtape Auto Reverse.
Cool. Rose?
I am at 80s Music Girl on Twitter, 80s Music Girl on Facebook, and 80s Music Girl on Instagram.
Very good. And I am Dave. Take care of our 80s Reboot accounts. And on Twitter, that's at 80s Reboot. And as I said, just hit 60 or 6K, not a 60K. Wow. I'm not that popular. But just hit 6K. So to everybody that's on Twitter that's following us, big thank you. Really appreciate you jumping on board the 80s train and geeking out retro with us. So thank you. As far as Tumblr, we're on 80sreboot.tumblr.com, facebook.com/80sreboot. You can email us at 80sreboot@gmail.com. Other thing that's important is going out there, giving us rating and review on iTunes. So please remember to do that. And once again, we appreciate everybody listening. Have a great whatever, and thank you for reliving the 80s with us.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.
Alright, well, sorry to be the rush guy, but
Yeah, such a buzzkill.
I know, dude. I know. Well, that's what happens when I let you guys talk about your dogs and all that other stuff.
Get out.
No, I mean, all that was great stuff. Great conversation.
Yeah,
so I'm glad that we have friendly chit chat, amongst just going on topic, and
Right on.
because we have enough of those where things are just like in and out with the topic, and that's not cool. I think us sharing our personal stories, whether mine was just about a damn dryer, but I just
Still, it's important to you. Your daughter would have made your life a living hell.
She would have, yes.
Yeah. So, hey, all right. Well, you guys have a good night, and Rose, condolences to your family and your friends, and
Thank you. Appreciate that.
and the Converse All Stars. That's a very cool little tidbit of the story. That's awesome. He's wearing Chucks all the time. So, and that they're all going to wear Hawaiian shirts and Chucks to the funeral. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or the memorial.
Yeah. Memorial.
So, Well, we'll be thinking about you.
Thank you.
You're
You guys
welcome.
have a wonderful night and great
You
rest
too.
of the weekend.
All right.
Bye.
See you later.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.